Okay, we got observations about Hope Hicks. Now we want to talk a little bit about Donald Trump. And for that, I want to bring in MSNBC's host of The Last Word, Lawrence O'Donnell, who was in the room, inside the courtroom today. We're showing a picture, Lawrence, of you behind former President Trump in court yesterday. And an observer from Sue's paper, the New York Times, wrote that as he walked by you, he was squinting strangely. I wonder if you were aware of that moment, but also your observations of Trump today in court.
Well, I was very aware of that moment yesterday. The whole courtroom was. It was that everyone who'd been there before. This is my first day yesterday. Everyone said it was the strangest thing they'd ever seen him do in a courtroom. He was getting up to leave, and I was sitting actually in the late afternoon at an even closer seat to Trump than the one in that shot we just showed. I was on the aisle. And so when he was walking by my position at the aisle, he decided he was going to stare at me in what I'm sure he was hoping was some kind of intimidating look. But he was trying to load so much into it, anger and hatred, that it just became a crazy look. It was just a crazy face. And I was just, lightly smiling back at him, hoping he could read my mind, which would have been, if I had a question, how stupid does it feel that your life has ended up in this room in this way? I was completely relaxed about it, but it was very peculiar. And of course, and I said last night, at the Last Word, 10 p.m., where I'll be reporting again tonight, but Donald Trump shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have given the whole room this hateful reaction to someone in the audience and letting everyone see how much just the presence of another person in that audience got to him. And of course, today, he took my instruction from last night on television, and this time he studiously avoided looking at me. And there was a moment during a recess where he turned around and was looking at the entire audience, just letting his eyes wander around the room. It's something he likes to do. He likes to see who's there. Anderson Cooper was across the aisle from me. That's the kind of thing that Donald Trump likes to take in. And his eye movement was flawless in the way it stopped right at the line of the man sitting beside me, and would never then move another, half inch to take me in. It was the most studious avoiding of eye contact that I think I've ever seen.
I'll just say I've known you, and we have worked together for, I think, close to 25 years now in one form or another, and I have never known you to be intimidated, so there's that. But today, was there any moment when you were observing Donald Trump that a particular part of the testimony he seemed engaged to you or he reacted to, Lawrence?
Well, I think, we are always trying to find something in a silent character in a room, and especially a defendant in a courtroom. We're always looking for things and trying to interpret, what does it mean that the jury never looks at him? What does that mean? When they walk by him and they speed walk past him as if they're trying to get past a horrible thing, they never look at him. And some jurors, in other cases, will look around the room. They will take in the defendant. And then there's the question of what's the defendant doing? And I think today we actually had what may be a meaningful moment of that kind of observation. And it was right at the end, as we broke for lunch, when witness Hope Hicks was leaving the witness stand. And she walked by Donald Trump within less than an arm's reach from each other, and neither one of them looked at the other. Donald Trump made sure that he was busy talking to Todd Blanche, and Hope Hicks very deliberately avoided any regard at Donald Trump, any look at him. It wasn't like David Pecker's smile to the defense table when he walked by. That's allowed. There's nothing wrong with Hope Hicks saying hi to her former boss as she walks by the table, or nodding or smiling. That's all available within the normal kind of behavior of that courtroom in that moment. But it was there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing between those two. Maybe that'll change. Maybe there'll be another moment where they exchange some kind of silent human contact, but not today. It didn't happen when they broke for lunch. That was the first opportunity for it, and Hope Hicks didn't take it, and Donald Trump didn't take it.